The late afternoon sun dripped gold through the leaves of Central Park, painting dappled shadows across the manicured lawns. Families sprawled on picnic blankets, kids shrieked with laughter chasing pigeons, and the air hummed with the peaceful weekend vibe. 17-year-old Jalen Jackson breathed it in, a rare moment of calm in his usually hectic city life. He leaned against a sturdy oak, watching his little brother, 10-year-old Marcus, expertly navigate his scooter around the winding paths. Everything shifted when the rumble cut through the park's gentle symphony, a low, guttural growl that vibrated in Jalen's chest. He straightened up, eyes scanning the entrance. 4 motorcycles, black as night, snarled into the idyllic scene. Chrome glinted menacingly in the sunlight. The riders, clad in leather and chains, looked like they'd been carved from granite and bad intentions. They weren't here for the scenery. Jalen felt a cold knot tighten in his stomach. His senses sharpened, every peaceful sound now muted by the ominous thrum of the engines. He watched as they parked their bikes in a rough cluster, the metallic clank echoing too loudly in the suddenly hushed air. Their eyes, hard and predatory, immediately locked onto him and Marcus. This wasn't a casual park visit. This was a hunt. He subtly nudged Marcus closer, his arm instinctively going around his brother's shoulders. "Stay close, okay?" he murmured, his voice low and steady, belying the tremor of adrenaline starting to course through him. Marcus, sensing the shift in atmosphere, nodded silently, his eyes wide and fixed on the approaching bikers. The bikers moved with a deliberate slowness, a pack of wolves circling their prey. They swaggered, each step radiating an almost palpable aggression. One, bigger than the rest, with a shaved head and tattoos snaking up his neck, spat on the ground. Another cracked his knuckles, the sound amplified in the sudden silence that had fallen around them. Families nearby seemed to freeze, conversations dying mid-sentence, all eyes drawn to the unfolding drama. Jalen stood his ground, forcing himself to breathe deeply, to channel the years of karate training etched into his muscles and mind. He remembered Sensei Tanaka's words echoing in his head. "Discipline is your shield. Calmness is your weapon." He focused on his posture, relaxed but ready, his gaze direct, unwavering. He wouldn't show fear. Fear was an invitation. They closed in, surrounding Jalen and Marcus, cutting off any easy escape. The shaved-head biker, who seemed to be the leader, stopped inches from Jalen, his breath reeking of stale beer and something darker. "Well, well, well," he sneered, his voice gravelly, laced with menace. "Look what we got here. A couple of kids, playing in the park." His eyes raked over Jalen, lingering on his lean frame, assessing, challenging. "You got a problem with us being here, kid?" he growled, stepping even closer, invading Jalen's space. Jalen met his gaze, unflinching. "No problem," he said, his voice calm even. "Just enjoying the afternoon with my brother." He kept his hands loose, but his muscles were coiled, ready to move. He scanned their body language, the subtle shifts in weight, the tightening of fists, the twitch of an eye. Years of training had honed his instincts, turning him into a human lie detector. He knew these guys weren't just looking for trouble. They were manufacturing it. "Your brother, huh?" The biker chuckled, a harsh, grating sound. He gestured to Marcus with a thick, calloused hand. "Cute kid. Maybe we should take him for a ride." Laughter rumbled through the group, ugly and threatening. Marcus flinched, squeezing Jalen's hand tighter. Jalen's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice level. "My brother's fine right here. We were just leaving anyway." He started to gently steer Marcus away, trying to create an opening. "Leaving? Hold on there, tough guy." The biker stepped in front of them, blocking their path. "We ain't done talking." He leaned in closer, his face inches from Jalen's. "You think you're too good for us, huh, Mr. Cool Karate Kid?" Jalen didn't react to the taunt. He knew escalating with words was exactly what they wanted. He focused on maintaining the calm center within the storm brewing around him. He knew violence was rarely the answer, but he also knew that sometimes it was the only language bullies understood. He hoped it wouldn't come to that. Suddenly, one of the other bikers, younger and twitchier, shoved Jalen from the side. It wasn't a hard shove, but it was a deliberate act of aggression, a test. "Hey, tough guy, you deaf? My friend's talking to you." Jalen didn't lose his balance. He absorbed the force, planted his feet, and remained rooted to the spot. He didn't flinch, didn't yell, didn't escalate. He just looked at the biker, his gaze steady, unwavering. It was a silent message. "I'm not intimidated." The bikers seemed momentarily taken aback by his lack of reaction. They expected fear, anger, something. But Jalen offered them nothing but calm resolve. It was unnerving. The shaved-head biker stepped, back slightly, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. "You know, kid," he said, his voice still rough but slightly less aggressive. "You got a real attitude problem." "I just want to take my brother home," Jalen replied, his voice still, even. "We're not looking for any trouble." "Trouble finds you, kid," another biker sneered. He moved closer, circling Jalen, trying to intimidate him. But Jalen remained centered, his eyes tracking every movement, his body poised. Then, the younger biker, the one who shoved him, made a mistake. He lunged, a clumsy telegraphed swing aimed at Jalen's head. It was sloppy, fueled by bravado and cheap beer, not real aggression. Years of training kicked in, instinct took over. Jalen moved with lightning speed, a blur of motion. He deflected the punch with a forearm block, the force rippling through his body but not breaking his stance. In the same fluid motion he spun, his leg arcing out in a precise, controlled side kick, connecting with the biker's ribs. It wasn't a knockout blow. Jalen wasn't trying to cripple anyone. It was a message. A clear, undeniable message delivered with focused power and impeccable technique. The biker gasped, stumbled back, clutching his side, his bravado instantly deflated. The park went silent. Every eye was on Jalen. The bikers froze, their aggression momentarily stunned by the unexpected display of skill. Jalen stood in a balanced stance, his breathing steady, his eyes calm but alert. He hadn't escalated the violence, but he had unequivocally defended himself and his brother. The shaved-head biker stared at Jalen, his face unreadable. He looked at his fallen comrade, then back at Jalen. The air crackled with unspoken tension. For a long, agonizing moment, no one moved. Then slowly, deliberately, the shaved-head biker nodded. Just a slight inclination of his head, but it was a concession, a recognition. He turned to his crew. "Let's go," he grunted, his voice devoid of its earlier menace. They didn't argue. They didn't challenge. They just turned, mounted their bikes, and roared out of the park, leaving the stunned silence in their wake. The tension slowly bled out of the air, replaced by a low murmur of conversation. People started to move again, whispering, pointing. Some even clapped, a spontaneous burst of applause for the quiet kid who had stood his ground against the bullies. Marcus stared at Jalen, his eyes wide with a mixture of awe and concern. "Jalen," he whispered, "are you okay?" Jalen knelt down, putting his hands on Marcus's shoulders. "I'm fine, little man. You okay?" Marcus nodded, still shaken, but safe. "Yeah," he breathed. "That was amazing." Their mom rushed over, her face etched with worry. "Jalen, Marcus, what happened? I saw the bikes." She pulled them both into a tight hug, relief flooding her voice. Later, at home, after Marcus was asleep, their mom sat down with Jalen. "I'm proud of you, Jalen," she said, her voice soft but firm. "You were brave. You protected your brother." "I just did what I had to do, Mom." Jalen shrugged, but a small smile played on his lips. "But you have to be careful," she cautioned. "You can't go looking for fights." "I know, Mom. I wasn't. I wasn't going to let them hurt Marcus." He thought about the bikers, the fear, the adrenaline, the moment of controlled action. He realized something profound. Strength wasn't about size or aggression. It was about discipline, about courage, about knowing when to stand your ground and when to walk away. It was about protecting those you loved. And sometimes, it was about showing bullies that you weren't afraid. That night, as he drifted off to sleep, Jalen knew he had learned a valuable lesson. True strength wasn't just in his fists or his feet. It was in his heart, In his mind, in the quiet confidence that came from knowing his own worth and standing up for what was right. Even in the face of fear, courage could be found, and sometimes courage was all you needed.